Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Lottie from Lottie Louise Art and I draw animals and wildlife mostly using coloured pencils or pastels. Today I'll be showing you how I draw a duckling using coloured pencils. I always start off with a basic outline sketch using a graphite pencil. I press really lightly so it can easily be rubbed out as I go along. When I draw animals I always start with the eyes because it gives character and life to the animal. So here I'm outlining the eye in a polychromos black pencil. I always make sure I have a really sharp point on my pencil so that I can get all the detail. I use the Derwent Super Point Mini Sharpener to get really sharp points with my pencils. I just shade in the darkest areas first, and then I'm going in here with the Walnut Brown by the Polychromos range, as this adds more tone rather than the eye being just black. I then add some indigo blue, which just creates some reflection in the eye rather than it just being so dull. And I'm using a Pablo, Caran Pablo pencil in white to add some highlight to the eye. I use the Zest It pencil blend to blend the colours together and get rid of any graininess on the paper. As you can see, it's getting rid of all the little white dots on the paper. Once it's dry, I'll add some details around the eye, like the waterline. Here I'm starting to add a few colours to areas of the face, picking out the areas which are the lightest and the darkest. Here I'm using a mixture of polychromos and Caran luminance pencils. I'll put every pencil and supply that I use in this video in the description below. As I'm drawing, I gently rub out bits of my pencil sketch so that it doesn't show through the coloured pencil, because it can make the colour look a little bit dirty or a little bit muddy and it doesn't look as nice. If anyone's wondering what tape I use around the edge of the picture, I'm using the Scotch Magic tape, so it's very low tack tape so it doesn't rip the paper when you peel it back off. It gives a really crisp edge around the edge of the drawing, which is why I've used that as well. So I just keep adding really light layers of colour until the whole face is covered. I then go in with the Zest It pencil blend again, just using any old brush. It doesn't have to be anything expensive, so I'm just using a brush from the Cass Art website. It's just a multimedia brush. It's really nothing exciting. And I wait about 10 to 15 minutes for it to dry, even though sometimes I'm a bit impatient and I start after about 5 minutes, but really you should wait a little bit longer so that it doesn't ruin the paper when you add more pencil. I'm using the Fabriano Artistico hot press watercolour paper for this drawing, which doesn't warp or buckle when using the Zest It pencil blend on top, so that's why I'm using a watercolour paper for this piece. I add a second layer of the pencil blend on top before I add a third layer of colour. I then darken up all the darkest areas and making sure to leave all the lightest areas light. Because with coloured pencil you should always start from lighter colours and build up to get the darker colours. You can't really use light pencils on top of the dark colours that well, which is one disadvantage of coloured pencils, which is also another reason why I really like pastels, but I'll do another video on that at some point. I'm going in with some of the brighter yellows just to brighten up the face and make everything a little bit more vibrant. I then go in with some warm grey 1 in the polychromos pencils in the lightest areas just to give a bit more depth, because it's quite hard to make lighter colours still look light, but you need to add some sort of colour to it, so I just went with some warm grey 1 to keep the tone quite warm. Now I'm going to move on to the beak. So I start off by using a black pencil to add where all the darkest values are, which is like the nostril, and there's a bit of shading under the crease of the mouth. I messed up part of the beak here, but I did manage to fix it. I did the nostril a little bit too high up, but yeah, I managed to help it with the help of my rubber. I'm just using a basic cheap rubber, which you could literally get anywhere. Mine's just in a little butterfly shape. The beak in the reference photo is very blue toned, so I'm adding quite a lot of indigo blue to the darker and mid-tone areas of the beak. I then add a light layer of light cobalt blue into the lighter areas before darkening up the dark bits even more. I'll also add some solvent before I add in the highlights to the beak a little bit later on. Here I'm just adding one last bit of solvent to the face. The good thing with the solvent is that you can keep adding it more and more after each layer. After each layer you should probably use less and less solvent each time to prevent ruining the layers underneath. I think I added a bit too much here, but that quite often happens, but it still turned out okay. And then just adding some more browns and yellows to the face just to make the colours a little bit richer. This will be my final layer on the face before moving on to the body. I'm just mapping out where all the darkest areas in the body are, and I'm drawing them with very light pressure, always following the direction of the fur. Not that ducklings have fur as such, but you know what I mean. I haven't included the whole process of drawing the duckling's body in the video because it's basically the same as I did on the head. So basically I just add in a thin layer before going in with the Zestit pencil blend, wait for it to fully dry, and then go in with another layer of coloured pencils, adding more depth each time. Using the solvent prevents the tooth of the paper from getting filled up too quickly, which would prevent you from being able to add as many layers as I have here. I really do recommend the Zestit pencil blend as it's designed specifically for coloured pencils. It also doesn't have a super strong scent. I think I got my bottle from eBay for about £6 to £7 and I've had it for almost a year and there's still so much left in the bottle, so it will last you absolutely ages. And here's the finished drawing. So I really hope you enjoyed the video. I know the voiceover wasn't perfect, but it was my first attempt at ever doing a voiceover, and we all know hearing your own voice is a little bit weird. But yeah, this is my YouTube channel. So please like the video and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more. Bye guys!